All right. Oh, okay. Oh. All right. I'll do this. This. And join the meeting too?
Yes.
All right.
And just make sure you're on mute. All right, we're being live streamed.
You know what? I don't have the blue link. Oh, but you know what? It's in the, luckily it's in the agenda.
Yes, it is.
Look at that. That is, unluckily, but I can't.
Or you can go to the town's website, you can show the calendar.
All right.
I don't see Bill Donovan
No.
or Leroy.
I think I remember hearing from Leroy. I think Leroy, did he email about this?
Bill is, he just emailed everyone and said he needs the Zoom invite.
Did someone forward that to him?
Yeah.
I'm just fearful I'm going to do something wrong here.
Yeah, so let me, so this would be on the town's website, John?
Yeah, go to calendar
Yeah.
and it should be the first ones that come up.
So this, but not. There we go. So I will, first I'm just gonna send Bill this. So by the time the meeting's over, we should be able to get started. Thanks for your patience, everybody. All right, so there's that. And, now I will follow the Zoom link.
Did you send Bill the link?
Yeah, but I just said the link. I'm going to join the webinar. Open.
Someone else just joined.
So I'm muted.
Do you want me to promote you? I think I do need to promote you to panelists.
Okay. Yay. The speakers off.
Every video off. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we'll wait for Bill. He should be here
Oh, that's
momentarily.
kind of funny. I'm wearing the same shirt. Oh, that's great. All right. So there's that. Now the question is, how do I share? All right. We are a tech-enabled group. I'm now going to share something. Maybe not.
Right, here's
Oh,
Bill.
yes, I am. I'm going to hit share screen. Share the agenda. There we go. That was a long way of doing that. But here we go, guys.
I just want to confirm, Bill, are you with us? Bill?
Who's there?
Yeah, hi.
Oh,
Good.
great. Welcome, everybody.
Okay.
We're all present in here. Thanks for joining. I'm going to call us to order at 6:07 for whoever's keeping track. Eric.
Yes.
So welcome to our August 3rd meeting of the Scarborough Housing Alliance. Thank you for joining. See, everybody can see the agenda up on the screen. The first item is the approval of the minutes from June 30th, which Eric kindly created and we circulated with the agenda. I think everybody's reviewed them. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve them? Thank you, Dick. Would somebody like to take a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Any discussion? None, all in favor of approving minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nobody, great, it's unanimous. Lovely, thank you. Next on the agenda is just a final, I think, follow-on discussion regarding the conversion of lodging to affordable and workforce housing in town. I think it was probably 2 or 3 meetings ago, the concept or issue of converting existing lodging uses in town to affordable and workforce housing was introduced to us. The town council asked us to study the issue, weigh in on the issue, and advise them on what considerations ought to be considered when applications come to them to do conversions of existing lodging uses to affordable or workforce housing. I think particularly in zones where multifamily is not a permitted use. I think we did some good work thinking through that issue. And that work I tried to capture in a memo that was included with the minutes. And hopefully folks have had a chance to review it. The memo is intended to be complete and to capture all of our thoughts. The one thing that it is missing, or it's the known missing thing, is kind of a compendium of the meeting minutes from various meetings where we talked about all of these things. And I think when we get to the end of all this, I might just ask Tom and Eric to collaborate, or maybe Tom, you're able to go through the archives and kind of attach the relevant meeting minutes to this memo. But what I'd like to do is just kind of go around the room, maybe not directly around the room, but see if anybody has any adds or deletions to this, or and if there are none, whether we can hear a motion to adopt it as is. But why don't we first start with the question of whether there's any adds or deletions or tweaks that people would suggest making.
Could I just ask a question of Jean Marie, just to, I think it will benefit the conversation. Jean Marie, where do you see this, these set of recommendations going?
I think it should go directly to the council.
Right, but they're likely to refer it back to committee of some sort, right?
God only knows. If they did anything, they'd send it to ordinance, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that would be logical, but there's some.
Is that what you're asking? Remember,
Yeah,
I'm in vacation mode here, so.
So that would be logical. The only crossover issue would be, this is dealing, at least in some instances, with zoning matters, which is along the committee. So I guess we don't need to answer that. Let the council figure out where they want to go from here.
To me, this fits in somewhat with what some of the updates we may have to do with LD 2003 that came out of the legislature. In looking at zoning, and I know I missed the last ordinance meeting. And I know they had something on the agenda for dealing with, zoning. And did you go to that meeting, Tom?
I did. There was nothing material that came out of it. It's just
Okay.
that we all need to study the legislation, and I think there's a delayed implementation date. So there's about a year that we have to figure it out.
Okay. Because this to me makes so much sense the more I'm seeing out there, and as anyone's probably seeing and reading, even in the press. I know when South Portland discussed their hotel issues, there was some, and I honestly can't remember if it was, what I read in the notes or whether it was comments by people underneath the article or whatnot, but affordable housing for workforce keeps coming up again and again and again and again. And, if we've got these existing structures that can be used in some way, because at least you have a bedroom and a bath, and with the suites, you've got these small, studio type apartments, if they can be used, particularly for workforce housing, I definitely want to see that. But again, I'm going off on another line here, but yeah, send it right to council and let us, we'll deal with it.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all, that's awful.
Yeah, I mean, this summary report is really good. I don't know who did it, but it's good. And it seemed pretty comprehensive. And Jean Marie's right. The town council is going to push this to the ordinance committee for an analysis, and then it'll come back to the town council, and I think be favorably reviewed.
Yeah, as a practical matter, I've got a new town planner, director of planning, starting August 22nd. And the ordinance committee will rely on staff to actually reduce things to actionable, ordinances or ordinance amendments. So I suspect I'll need to onboard the planning director and rely on her to help shepherd some of this through to get something actionable in front of the ordinance committee. So it's likely to be several months.
Yeah, true. Good first assignment for the new planning director.
Yeah, unfortunately, that list of assignments is growing by the day.
A lot of first assignments.
Yes.
Well, to make sure nobody's being shy, I'm gonna affirmatively go around the room and say, Jean Marie, any adds or deletes or tweaks you'd like to make?
No, I'm just, since I'll be receiving this on the receiving end, I'm just gonna stay out of it at the moment, let you guys do what you want to do, okay?
You're the consumer here.
Yes.
Right. Bill, how about you?
Well, I liked it a lot, and comparing it with the notes I made of the key points at our last meeting, it matched up carefully, closely. So, no, I'm good. I liked the thoroughness of it. So it's a really good piece that I think will be well received by the town council.
Eric, how about you?
Thanks, Brian. I had just two things that caught my attention. I'm not sure they're worth much, but one was I felt like we talked a little bit about access to transportation. And I didn't see that in there unless I missed it.
Yeah.
And then the other was where we talk about no more than 50% can be and 10% must be. We didn't really talk about what the number was what was the multiplier? Was it existing units, all units? How many units? So I think there's some nuance there.
Yeah.
It's intended to be the number, if a motel comes forward with 100 units, it would mean that 50% or 50 of the units that was the limit for non-restricted use. And 10 units would have to be, that's the way I interpreted it.
Eric, I know when I think you and I had some email communication about this, and yeah, I think there's this kind of question, right? Let's say you hypothetically start out building with 100 units, and a proposal knocks that down to 50 units. Because I don't know, for whatever reason, how ought we be measuring things, right? And I think that's a good distinction to draw. I think it's likely that the number of call it, I don't know, hotel rooms or even hotel suites would likely be greater than the number of apartment units that would ever be created from one of these conversions. I could see two hotel rooms getting turned into a single apartment for instance.
Yeah,
Um,
and most would be a one-for-one swap. You know, the Candlewood Suites, because of the way they're built, they have kitchenettes and they're self-contained.
Yeah,
Those might be one-for-one, but in most cases, you're right, you'll have less number of multifamily units than you do.
Yeah.
And so that's my question. Is it 10% of the 100 or is it 10% of the 50?
I'd be inclined to measure it based on the final product,
The 50.
the 50. You know, imagining, and this is a silly example, but if the ratio worked out such that you needed to combine 3 units into one, yeah, there's a maybe a mathematical possibility that you never could reach 50% of the original 100. And we wouldn't want that outcome.
And what if I asked the question the other direction and said, what if they made 100 units into, I don't know, the math's probably not going to work as you just described, Brian, and then made 10 super high-end top floor luxury units. Is that their right?
Yeah, so that would not be a great outcome, right? Probably. I mean, is there something to be said about I don't know, I don't know what the phrase is, but there's this term of art that we use in our industry, right? About like consistency or all units being similar, regardless of who they're targeting. And setting expectation about that.
I know I was looking at this, I was thinking, well, part of me was thinking just because of my experience with Candlewood Suites, they were looking to do the whole thing as workforce housing. But when I was looking, and I honestly can't remember fully our discussions, I wouldn't have heartburn over some portion being market rate, so to speak. But now you guys are talking about, oh, you know, I guess tearing down walls and recreating and making whatever. And to me, if a developer is going to start doing that, then they aren't going to want to do the workforce of the affordable because they can't afford it. If they're going to tear down walls and do all sorts of construction, they're going to be like, the hell with that. We're not going to go this way. We're going to go just market rate. So so how do we incentivize this?
What if we were to say that, you know, the third bullet on this is that, you know, units of the same size, regardless of who they're targeting, ought to be indistinguishable from each other.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking of an example where 100 unit could be converted to 20, and only 2 of them would be affordable.
Right.
8 would be workforce, and 10 could be giant luxury penthouses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the concept isn't the concept we're talking about here that like kind units should be each subject to the same standard, so that if you've got 53 bedrooms, then 10% of the 53 bedrooms should be affordable, and half the 3 bedrooms should be subject to this workforce housing. And if you have the same with 2 bedrooms, and you could do it either on a square footage basis or on a bedroom basis. I mean, that's the way the zoning code has treated some circumstances.
Yeah, I agree, Bill. And I think some combination of what Brian said and what you just said is probably the third bullet point here.
And the ordinance committee would be very attuned to that and conversant with the zoning and how to kind of hit the sweet spot.
And I am on the ordinance committee, just so you know.
But
Yeah, I
it does
don't
sound
think
like it does sound like there needs to be some further definition here or articulation.
Yeah, I can certainly add a third bullet here. That's a great pickup, Eric.
That
Yeah.
is,
Yep.
And is that standard for affordable housing units? It's not for workforce, or does it include both?
So in the affordable housing development industry, if you will, that's a standard practice or a standard expectation that, you don't, in deals that are funded as affordable housing, it's not permitted to, have stainless steel appliances in one, in a non-affordable unit and
Oh, right.
like black and white appliances in another.
No, fair enough.
Or granite countertops in a non-affordable unit. And
I was just saying, the first bullet here that says at least 10% of the units must qualify as affordable housing units.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is the 8% or less of AMI.
in Scarborough, that's what that would be.
Right.
Is there any preference or requirement for workforce? Does workforce play a role in this whatsoever?
According to this, no.
Just ask the question, do we want?
Well, actually, let me say, when you look to the second bullet point,
Yes,
no more than 50% can be unrestricted, which means at least 50% have to be workforce or affordable.
affordable. Right, that's how I do it. So in my example of 20 units, 2 had to be affordable, 10 could be unrestricted. That left 8 that must fall under the workforce definition by default.
Right. So
It does.
yes, we've got 100 units, 10 have to be affordable. No more than 50 can be unrestricted,
Right.
which means that there's 40 left that can be
So the
workforce.
10% of affordable is the 10% of 50%.
No,
No,
No?
10% of 100, 10% of them all.
But the rest could be,
So that's another good pickup, Tom. So maybe in that second bullet point, we say no more than 50% of all of the units.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make that clear.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
as an aside, and this is a bit of a, maybe inside baseball and precautionary, there sounds to be some interest on the part of the council to potentially reopen our growth management ordinance. I raise that in the context of this because currently affordable units are exempt. And I suspect that's one of the areas they'll talk about. Some councilors have indicated an interest in going down that road. If this group has a preference, maybe as a bit of a preemptive move, is to state if we think that's important, that these projects or the affordable units as part of these projects should be exempt from the GMO. It might be helpful to flag that preemptively.
I think the workforce should be exempt. I mean, or some number on it, because remember I got them to pass 10% of single family if they workforce, or no, 10, excuse me, 10 permits allowed if they workforce outside of the GMO. And
Because as a practical, yeah, I was gonna say, as a practical matter under the current GMO, if they're not, I don't know how practically many, if any, of these projects actually happen.
So, one thing that strikes me about a project like this is that, the structure exists. The traffic going to these structures exists. All of, the water use exists, the power use exists, the everything exists. So it strikes
School
me
kids
that,
don't exist yet.
and who knows, school kids don't exist for the old woman living in the 4-unit or the 4-bedroom house next door to us,
Touche.
right? So who knows about school kids? But I think there's less impact from, this isn't necessarily growth,
I agree.
So
So
I think it's probably worth,
I think it's worth
unless
being
that,
very clear about the expectations from this group anyway.
I agree. I really don't want to give it some of my fellow counselors any wiggle room on this one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, just the reality of the way that the current GMO is, a project of any size will have a really hard time ever happening with the current limitations in place. Unless there's
Tom, on, do we, LD
Yeah, shouldn't we?
2003, did LD 2003, did it do anything with growth management? I know one of the iterations of it, they were trying to tell towns you couldn't have, limits on X, Y, and Z. And I haven't really looked at the final bill. So I didn't know what came out of that regarding
You're right,
growth
that was
management and whatever.
That was part of the original proposal that was removed in the end.
Okay.
So that no longer exists. But the legislation does add significant density and designated growth areas. I think 2.5 times the allowable density.
And
But-
how
but
many,
it's-
how many of these hotels are in the growth area? That,
Probably not many, frankly.
yeah. And again, anything we can do, because I mean, I don't get it. I don't know who they think are gonna work in all of these jobs and whatever, but yeah, we need workforce housing. I mean, it's an economic tool.
So the language that I would think to add that kind of relates to this would be something around to the extent that or up to the point where the number of bedrooms in a project is not increased. That should not, the project should be exempt from the growth ordinance.
Yeah,
Kind of basically distinguishing between,
No, I think
using an
I think your
existing
point is there are existing, I won't call them units.
somethings.
They exist, and so arguably there is already an existing impact on municipal services, and that this conversion doesn't materially change that, and therefore they should be exempt. Something along those lines.
Mhm.
Tom, parenthetically and related but unrelated, when the structure is demolished in town, whether it's a single family home or an apartment building, is there some sort of credit within the GMO that kind of, adds to the inventory of what's available?
I think those replacement in the case of a demolition, fire, whatever, I believe they are exempt. So you can trade one for one.
And what if something, burns down and doesn't, so this parcel burns down or gets knocked down
Yeah.
and nothing happens on that land, does that get added to the town's inventory or is it just sort of special
No.
use for that parcel?
It's just that parcel. That doesn't require a growth permit. It doesn't go into a pool for someone else to
Right.
use.
Probably it's the public policy.
We have a hard enough time managing that.
Create a whole
Well,
nother
it'd be
public,
pretty bad when
public
they say,
demand.
Ryan, you can't build that house because.
We use that permit already.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right.
You start your house built down, I know by the day you can't rebuild.
Yeah, sorry about that. Great, all right.
Classic insulting.
Exactly. Michaela, how about you? Any adds, deletes, comments, endorsements?
No, I think that was a great pickup. It makes a lot of sense what you're just talking about.
Dick?
I think it looks great. The additions are actually very, very well done. So did a great job.
Great. Well, thanks, everybody. This was good work, Scarborough Housing Alliance.
And Eric, can you and I collaborate just to make sure I have all the relevant minutes? I assume including tonight. We can have those as draft. We don't need to wait another month for this to go to council. We'll just, that tonight's meeting minutes will be drafted. Eric can find a way to get those done sooner than later.
How much sooner than later?
7:30?
Yes.
No, I mean,
Just
I
kidding about that, Eric.
think if we get to council in September, we're fine.
Okay.
Frankly.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Would folks be comfortable with me making these edits and circulating this by email and giving a thumbs up by email rather than waiting till the next meeting?
Yeah, I think a motion would be to adopt what was proposed with the changes discussed tonight, subject to final review and verification by the group.
Great. Would somebody like to make a motion along the lines of what Tom just said?
I'll make it.
Great. Thank you, Dick.
Yes,
Is
sir.
there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Bill. Any discussion? I too think that was a wonderful motion, and thank you for making it. I'll call the question. All in favor?
We need roll
Aye.
call.
We need roll because we are on Zoom. Great. Bill Donovan,
aye.
Eric Boucher,
Yes,
Michaela Sargent,
Yes.
Dick LaRue,
Yes.
Brian Chumley. Yes. That's everybody.
Very good.
Great. That's unanimous. Wonderful. Thanks, guys and lady.
Eric, if the minutes can just reflect it with roll call vote, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This is very helpful.
Great. Thank you for the assignment, Jean Marie.
Not a problem, anytime.
This is, Eric, nice identification of issues. Well done.
Stop sharing. Yeah. Let's stop share.
That's right. Just so we don't see each other.
All right. Great. Terrific. So the next item on the agenda is a discussion on vacancies and membership. Tom, thank you for the roster. So it turns out we are able to be a 7-member organization, and we are right now a 6-member organization. So we've got one slot with a term that expires in 2023. And turns out we've also got 2 slots that have terms that expire in 2022. Bill, you and I we're set to expire this year. And
Yes, sign us up.
I mean, our membership is set to expire. We are not going to expire, hopefully, but our membership is set to expire. And so, I bring this up, I was, Don Hamill actually had asked me about membership here and curious about our roster. And, I want to just encourage folks, as we talk about things we care about in life, one of those things is housing. And to the extent that other people that care about housing in our community, I think it would be great to tell them about the work our committee is doing, invite them to one of our meetings or, as you're talking to people and, hear people who are interested in some of the articles that have been in the Leader. I think last week there were 3 articles that had something to do with housing, which is super timely with the work that we do. It would be great to get that one more person here on the Alliance, and then have other people waiting in the wings.
Yeah, I should say the Appointments and Negotiation Committee, who's the council committee that reviews applicants and recommends appointments to the full council, I believe has a meeting this coming Monday. And in fact, there are 2 applicants that have expressed interest. Brian, I provided you a copy of their applications in serving on the Housing Alliance. First one is Bob Nato. Bob, I know, is a retired banker, commercial lender. Been retired 2 or 3 years. I happened to bump into him a couple of months ago, and he said he's ready to get back involved. So I think this is the only committee he expressed interest in. And Brian, if you wanted, you could read his statements for the benefit of this group.
Sure. Yes. So Bob has been retired for 2 years, and he has an interest in giving back to the community. What piqued his interest in the Housing Alliance was reading the Portland Press Herald article on the possibility of converting longer stay hotel rooms to workforce housing. Something he thinks is badly needed if done right. No doubt the town is again experiencing housing growth, and while he's currently neutral on the subject, he would like to be included in how we manage that going forward. Bob was a banker for 40 years, primarily as a commercial lender. As such, he did quite a bit of business with the real estate developers, both residential and commercial. He'd like to think of himself as level-headed, making sure he's well-informed and offers his thoughts based on facts and not emotions.
Then the other candidate, I think, is Kyle Noonan, who's the attorney at Pierce Atwood. I would note that he listed a number of committees he's interested in serving, this being one of them.
This is not one of them. But I bet you he would like us.
Interesting, he was in the pile, so
Yeah.
we may just have Bob Nato.
Okay.
Again, the appointments and negotiation committee, that's a public meeting. It's not common, but it's not inappropriate for committee chairs to attend or to express an interest in one candidate over another. We only have one candidate to consider.
Interested in one that expressed interest
But
in us.
I want to raise
Yeah.
that they're scheduled to meet and will likely make a recommendation as soon as Monday.
Okay.
Just so you guys will know, I do know who Bob Netto is, from my real estate, background and whatever, and he would be a great addition. So there you go.
Great. Well, terrific. I'm also happy to read about Kyle Noonan.
Go ahead.
Or
if you want.
not. Kyle's a lawyer at Pierce Atwood that handles complex commercial disputes. He has experience of hearing before town governments and zoning boards of appeals. He's comfortable dealing with complicated and contentious situations. He's lived in Scarborough for 2 years and grew up in central Maine. His wife and he have a toddler that will attend the public schools. He's an avid outdoorsman and a user of Scarborough public resources, including playgrounds and beaches. He lives in the Pleasant Hill neighborhood. He loves Scarborough and would like to contribute to making it a wonderful place to live. He's a former board member of Trout Unlimited, the Sebago chapter. In that capacity, he partnered with the town of Naples to prepare and file 2 grant applications to replace decaying town culverts that impaired fish passage. Both grant applications were funded.
So it does appear, I think he was misplaced in this pile, that he didn't indicate interest here, but my guess is if this is the only committee he would do it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I love that people are interested in serving on the committees and also interested in us. I'd say, we're obviously, live on camera, and if anybody knows any good or bad or troubling or whatever, let Tom know. But I think privately probably, but I think this would be great to build out our committee structure, and that's perfect. But also, I encourage folks to talk to their friends and people interested in the work we do, and we can't quite pick who's here, but I do think some gender and ethnic diversity on the group would be worth going for, or encouraging or achieving. So I think as we think about that, and maybe even some neighborhood diversity. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where everybody's from, but I think if we're mindful of where we all live in Scarborough, that's a nice thing to represent as well.
No one else from Higgins Beach, please.
Oh, God.
Get 2 of you.
The coasties.
I think it would be great if we could get someone who lives in affordable housing is in Scarborough somehow or other. I don't know how we can go about recruiting, but folks who are directly impacted, who know this better than I ever would. So let's keep our ears and eyes open on that one too.
Brian, do you want to talk at all about next items for next meetings or upcoming meetings that have to be immediate?
Sure. Let's do that.
Just to save you and I just scrambling around trying to get an agenda together.
Yeah.
What should we talk about?
Yeah.
Let's see if the group has ideas of what they want to talk about. I guess I'll begin. The one thing I know needs some attention is, and Jean Marie was responsible for introducing this notion of workforce housing in the growth management ordinance. At the time, there was not a definition that this committee has since rectified, but there's a number of places elsewhere. Let me back up. It's almost without effect at this point, though we have it defined. It does not exist anywhere else in a meaningful kind of way. By that I mean, for affordable housing, there are density bonuses and different incentives that exists within the ordinance, we would need to do an update to maybe include the word workforce housing, consistent with, and it may not be appropriate to do it in all cases for both types, but I just note that it's almost without effect currently elsewhere in the ordinances.
I'll tell you, one other thing that kind of strikes me is I definitely take for granted, and I don't know the extent to which others take for granted, the value of a diverse housing stock and a diverse community and affordability in our community. And it turns out not everybody values that, or maybe not everybody understands that. And what I've started thinking about recently is that I think there's a role for this group to play, and I don't know what it is, either in doing this or just coordinating it. But to educate new town leaders about what affordable housing is, what it isn't, and the reality of creating it, the role it plays in a thriving community, and things like that. I think people, for whatever reasons, for good reasons, bad reasons, happy reasons, sad reasons, come to whatever roles they have with certain notions, and they're all founded in experience, through experience, and I think some of them merit some re-education that I think this group can have a productive role in helping with.
An example of that, Brian, was our last town council meeting when the residents of the Comfort Inn came in and spoke to us about what a difference it made to have a roof over their heads. Because I, bleeding heart liberal that I am, and whatever else people want to call me, I went into that meeting saying, geez, I don't know, maybe we do need to be looking at yanking the license, for example, or doing something with that license. But boy, when I heard the stories, I was overwhelmed. I mean, it made me realize, so yes, what you're saying about educating people and reminding them that we're more alike than we are different as people, and that to be able to provide good housing for everybody, regardless of their situation, is very important, and why it is. So, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. What can we do as a group here to educate the fellow members of our community? Because I'm getting really tired, having been, I'm a long-term resident of Scarborough, and I'm getting really disappointed and fed up with what I hear around just generally in the area about, Scarborough, we're all NIMBY, Scarborough's too expensive, we're a snotty elitist town, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's not the Scarborough that I knew or know, and it's not good. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah, that's Cape Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I lived in Cape, so I don't totally disagree with, but I didn't say that either. Anyway.
So we don't know what that means yet, but I think what you're talking about is just a discussion item, so we can start to kind of talk around the issue to see if there's anything actionable.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a discussion item, and then probably a decision from this group as to whether that becomes kind of the equivalent of a project that we work on, or something where we seek an outside resource to do some work on a project like that.
Yeah, and I think there's good validation and kind of a springboard in a number of areas in the comprehensive plan, frankly, that this group can kind of point to and work from, if you will. I think the challenge will be to come up with ways to actually execute and accomplish what we're intending to.
Yeah, and for us to all look in the mirror a little bit and then just say, how much time and do we all have to budget to put into an effort? And what resources do we have to get others? There's organizations that can help with stuff like this, and we've got resources that that can help activate those. But I think we need to be a catalyst for it. Or I think it's appropriate for us to be a catalyst if, as a group, we decide to.
I wonder, another thing that came to mind, Karen Martin, who's our executive director with SEDCO, is really a self-professed data wonk, particularly in the census data. She's kind of an expert. And she has said to me on countless occasions that there's just a wealth of housing-related information that's now available. So I wonder if I could speak to her and have her kind of put together some data from the census that may help guide this discussion to see where those points where you might want to lean into a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that'd
Would that be helpful?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Where are we lacking? You know, what are we doing comparatively a good job? You know, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and I think, the spirit, so part of it's that, part of the spirit of what I'm thinking about is dispelling myths, right? So, like, who are the people that we're aiming to serve, right? And like when, whether it's, folks on, whoever, but people who's passing a school budget that includes a certain level of funding for teachers and custodians and lunch ladies, are the people that would qualify for this housing, and sort of putting faces to, faces and real jobs to the people that we're seeking to serve, and really helping to take away the scare factor from the work that we do. And then the other piece, which is super curious to me, and I think Karen can help with, is really help dispel the boogeyman about the kids, right? And so there's this intuition about there's this huge stock of housing with multiple bedrooms in it in town, and not all of those bedrooms are filled with kids, right? But somehow when people talk about constructing new housing, everybody thinks that they're all going to be magically filled with kids that go to our schools. And
the data is almost overwhelmingly the opposite of conventional wisdom. That multifamily is not producing school-age kids in large part.
And even new construction, single family. So it's like, what's the? It would be really good to get that data and find a way to get it out, both to our leaders, but also to the public to help just kind of stop the nervousness.
Kids are good. In fact, this defies what many people think. In spite of fairly brisk growth, our student population is actually declining, not inclining. And there's a level of student population that is healthy and appropriate, and we've got capacity to deal with. Not, limitless, but I think that defies a lot of conventional wisdom that our student population is actually declining for any number of reasons. I think COVID has caused that. There's folks that have chosen other alternatives and will stay in that, out of the public system.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we've got less kids today than we did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, and you also have to look at demographics too. So the millennials, I happen to own a millennial. She's here somewhere wondering about cottage. I mean, they aren't having kids the way, and even though they're larger set of population than us boomers, they just aren't having kids. So there's all, again, those are the facts and the data that you want to show.
Karen, bring that too. Birth rates are down considerably.
Yeah,
Yes.
plus the cost of owning a home in Scarborough is increased crazy, so those people that were thinking about moving into this area, they can afford to right now, so.
I will.
Well,
mention, I'll mention as an aside, I was talking with the superintendent. I forget what the acronym is, but it's a ranking system of public high schools in terms of, and it's I guess not entirely proficiency based, but it's results based. Scarborough just vaulted ahead of Falmouth, so we're in the upper tier, and he actually was a superintendent in Falmouth before he was here.
Yeah.
He said that's a remarkable movement, and he said that over time, starting even upon release of that, will really, continue to put Scarborough on the map for folks seeking us out for the quality of schools.
Mhm.
That's great, which is not a bad thing by any stretch.
Tom, can we get, I mean, this thing cries out to try and get some publicity to the community, some communication of the community. This thing will go back to the town council, it will go to the ordinance committee. I think we'll actively present our viewpoint to the ordinance committee. They'll want to hear some of the nuances and the communications program that we have. I'm sure that Karen's data would be very valuable. I'd love to see us get it out there in the leader so that people appreciate the importance of the issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's just such an amount of data. I might suggest we allow Karen to bring some of that information to us and kind of sift through it and identify the pieces that we really want to key on and communicate about. But hearing you say that, Bill, it just occurred to me, the action that you just took regarding the conversion. Jean Marie, I'll speak to the council chair and see if we can schedule this as a non-action item. So rather than just simply transmitting this by a memo, Brian, if you're willing, I might see if the council would give you 10 or 15 minutes to do a bit of a presentation. So it will get some filling and some airing and some media coverage. The fact is, we have a person interested in serving on the committee.
Apparently we do.
Because of this basic initiative.
That's right.
So, yeah, it'd be great to carve out some time on an upcoming council agenda if we actually talk on it.
Yeah, and it would be great to have a couple people, if not everyone, from this committee even attending the council meeting somehow or other, just to show support and where it's where it's coming from. So that would be really helpful.
Let's make some noise about the presentation, and Brian can have a little piece carved out, and we can all show up and be introduced as this is your Affordable Housing Alliance. So,
and the good news is the germ of the idea came from council itself. So, I think it'll be good alignment, good receptivity.
And I could follow up with a counselor corner thing in the leader, so we could coordinate all of that. So,
that'd be great. That would be terrific.
Yeah. Great. Good. Well, that's helpful. I got 3 items here.
All right.
That ought to keep us busy for a while.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah,
Good.
Not more than we can chew on.
Yep.
That's terrific. So, Tom, will you kind of let the nominations committee know that that's great to us? And
Okay. We'll do it.
Going to see. Terrific. As I recall, there's one more thing on the agenda.
Let's just call for public comment.
Oh, yes.
All right. I say that because there are no attendees.
Well, if anybody's out there in TV land.
Undoubtedly, we have hundreds watching on YouTube.
We will be streaming soon on YouTube.
We are. We're live on YouTube.
Subscribers, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And kids say.
I finally figured out how to operate a Roku TV this week.
all right.
Over.
Any other achievements this week? Great. So for the final motion, anybody? Starts with ends with adjournment.
So to do adjourn.
All right. Thank you, Dick. We are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Great seeing
Thanks.
everybody.
And just so you know, I think Brian and I are committed to try to stay on our normal meeting cadence.
Yes.
We've been slipping up, but we'll redouble our efforts to stay
Yeah.
on schedule.
That's
going
right. So
forward.
it's schedule one and then have it a week later on a monthly basis. No.
Yeah.
Having said that, can we agree we'll start that regular schedule in September?
Yes. Please.
Okay, very good. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see,
Bye.
good to see everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye.